Hi everyone, welcome to the second lesson. Please make sure that you like, subscribe so that you don't miss the next lesson. So on this one, we're going to work on type of questions where we are given the boundary. As you can see now, we have given the restriction, the boundary. Let's just say the boundary, they say tan theta must be less than 0 and the value of k must be greater than 0. So now what I'm going to do, before we do anything, we need to first start by analyzing what we do. Remember, this is the second lesson of how to answer questions drawing a diagram. So the first thing we need to, let's say we are given the cos. Remember, what are we given? We are given the cos of theta, and they say this guy is equals to k. So remember, any number is over 1. So I'm just going to put that and say this is 1. And they are saying that k is positive. So this tells us that whatever number is k, we know that it's positive. And if it's positive, any number divided by 1 is just that number, okay? So the cos is positive. And let us use the soccer tool. So I'm just going to put our soccer tool down here. So cos, it's adjacent all over hypotenuse. So if it's adjacent, this will be my x and this will be my r. So we know that x is k, r is 1. But remember, the cos theta is positive. Why? Because of k is greater than 0. So I'm just going to write it there and say k is greater than 0. Therefore, the cos of theta is greater than 0, meaning that the cos of theta is positive. So if you understand that part, you are good to go. Now, cos theta is positive. We are given that the cos of theta is greater than 0, and then we are given that the tan of theta is less than 0. So we need to go and find the triangle that we need to work on. I mean the quadrant. How do we find that quadrant? This is how you're going to get your quadrant. You just have to draw a Cartesian plane like that, and then let's tick where it's cos positive. In which quadrant it's cos positive? It's positive in quadrant 1 and quadrant 4. See? Quadrant 1 and quadrant 4. Then we need to know where is tan negative. It's negative in quadrant 2 and quadrant 4. The quadrant that has 2 ticks is the quadrant that you need to work on. So now we know which quadrant we need to work on. So let us quickly go and draw our triangle on that quadrant. So our triangle will look like this. Then that's the 90 degrees. So remember, we are given r as 1. So this is my r, which is 1, and this is my y. What is y? We don't know the value of y. We have to use Theorem of Pythagoras to find that y. Then what is our x? X is given as k. Okay, so far so good. We are working with that. Will be my angle theta. Right, let's use Theorem of Pythagoras to find the missing side. That's what we need to do next. We need to use Theorem of Pythagoras. Remember, r squared is equals to y squared. Let's say x squared plus y squared instead. So this will be x squared plus y squared. So the value of r is given as 1 squared. It's equals to the value of x, it's k. So this will be k squared plus y squared. So the aim here is to isolate y and make y subject of the formula. How can we isolate y and make it subject of the formula? We're going to bring the k to the other side to be negative, and this will be y squared. So we can just square both sides. Remember, if we square in both sides, what is y equals to? Y is equals to plus or minus the root of 1 minus k squared. So now we need to decide if y is positive or if y is negative. That's what you need to do next. How do you decide? You look at your diagram now. So now when we look at the diagram, we can see that our diagram is in quadrant 4. How are the y values in quadrant 4? All of them are negative. Then we're going to decide and say the value of y will be minus the root of that 1 minus k squared. This is where most of the learners make mistakes. They just forget that the square root of any number in math is plus or minus. Because if you miss that information, if you miss the plus or minus information, what will happen? You will miss saying that the value of y is minus the root of 1 minus k. So now that you have x, you have y, you have the value of r, you can now start answering the question. So, but before we answer the question, let us quickly highlight the trick on this question. They gave you this k. Instead of telling you that cos theta is positive, they just tell you k is greater than 0. What you need to do, we know that k is just any number. So we divide by 1. We know that any number they say it must be positive, which tells us that the cos of theta is positive. Then tan theta is less than 0. So we just have to mark where cos is positive, where tan is negative. So the quadrant that has 2 ticks is the quadrant that we need to work on. That's it. Simple. Then now what you're going to do next, we can start answering this question. The first question wants us to find the sine of 180 plus theta. So we need to find, let's first redraw our diagram. Let's bring our diagram down here. So remember on this diagram, we said that we have, okay, let's quickly fix this. Okay, so I'm going to quickly draw my diagram like this. Okay, so on this diagram, we have y. Remember, we just got y to be minus the root of 1 minus k squared. That's y. And then what about r? We have r as 1, and then we have x to be k. Right, and this will be our angle. So now, let's look at what we have inside the diagram. This is my 90 degrees. And if this is my 90 degrees, we have that as theta. So let's try to first answer the first question that says we need to find sine of, we need to answer A. First question says find the sine of 180 plus theta. 180 degrees plus theta. Please don't forget, we are reading from the diagram. So when we read from the diagram, the first thing that you need to do is to reduce that sine 80 plus theta. You need to reduce it and tell us what is the sine of 80 plus theta if we use the reduction formula. So when you use the reduction formula, this will be equals to, so 180 plus theta is in quadrant 3. So how is sine in quadrant 3? It's negative. This will be negative the sine of theta. So if this is negative the sine of theta, so remember sine according to SOCA 2. Sine is opposite all over hypotenuse. So now you need to check what is your opposite. What is your y? So this will be negative inside the bracket. Our y is negative the root of 1 minus k squared, and everything divided by your hypotenuse, which is 1. Close the bracket. How did we get something like this? How did we get something like this? We used the SOCA 2. So it's fine, we can also write it down here and say this is the SOCA 2. Right, so we know that sine is O over H. What is our opposite? Remember, this is my opposite, this is my hypotenuse, and this is my adjacent. So when we say sine is opposite, what is opposite? Minus the root of 1 minus k. So we just have to simplify this. Multiply the negatives. Multiply out the bracket by what? we're going to multiply out the bracket by that negative. This times that, which will give us positive. So when you have positive, we can see that what is this equals to? This is just the root of 1 minus k squared. Then you're done answering the first question. You're done answering the first question. The first question was easy, no? The first question was very easy. So to answer the next question, if we go back up, what do we have? They want us to find the cos of 2 theta. So this has to do with double angle, the cos of 2 theta. So I know that number B, they want us to find the cos of 2 theta. Okay, so on B, they want us to find the cos 2 theta. So we need to find a way that we can use, but remember, we have identities that we can choose from there. If you still remember, I think it's about time I teach you how to study smart, or how to answer your exam questions smart. Ne? It's all about being smart. Don't study hard, but smart. Look at this. I'm going to write down the cos of theta. All the identities that we have. The first one is the cos squared of theta minus the sine squared of theta. The second one is the 1 minus 2, the sine squared of theta. And the other one that we have is 2, the cos squared of theta minus 1. I just want to save time answering this question. I'm going to look back on what I'm given. I have the sine of theta. I know what is the sine of theta, but look at this. I have too much negative root 1. I might make a mistake if I choose sine. Then I'm going to move up and check. Oh, I remember I was given the cos theta as k. K is very simplified. It will be easy for me to substitute k. So I'm going to choose the one that has cos only. So look at this. Which one? This identity is the best one to choose from, because already we know cos is k, which will be easy for us to simplify. So we're going to change this and write it as 2, the cos of what? The cos squared theta minus 1. It will be easy that way. So now already you know what is cos. You can substitute cos as k. This is squared minus 1. If you choose any identity, you'll still get the correct answer, but I recommend using this one because cos is just k, which is easy for you to work with. So this will be k squared minus 1. That's your final answer. 2k squared minus 1 is your final answer. Then now we can attempt the next question. Let's look at what we have on the next one, which is the last one. They say we have the cos of 60 plus theta. The cos 60 plus theta. Let's go and write that down. But first thing first, I'm going to start to write let me first do my diagram down here. Okay. So if I do my diagram, this is my diagram. I'm just going to put my diagram down here. Okay. So this is your diagram. Now we set our y is equal to negative the root of, this is negative the root of 1 minus k squared, and we have x that is equals to k, and we have x that is equals to k. This is just theta, and then r is equals to 1. So we're going to refer from the diagram to answer the following question. The question that we need to answer, it says that we need to find the cos of 60 plus theta. The cos of 60 degrees plus theta. That's what we need to work on. So now, without wasting time, I know that this is a compound angle for cos. So I have the cos of A with A plus B. We know that this will be equal to the cos of A times the cos of B. What happens to the sign? The sign changes. This will be minus. the sine of A, the cos of, the sine A, the sine B. So this will be the sine A and B times the sine of B. So what's next from here? Okay, so now what I'm going to do next is that I'm going to say this is cos. I know this is my angle A. I know this is my angle B. So this will be the cos of A, which is 60 degrees, multiply the cos of B, which is just the cos of theta. We minus the sine of A, which is 60. And then we have the sine B, which is the sine of theta. So this is easy because we know that 60 is a reference, it's a special angle. So since it's a special angle, we can just punch that on the calculator and say this is 1/2 the cos of theta. We're going to minus the sine 60, put it on your calculator, you get this as √3/2. Then we have the sine of theta. So now we need to refer from the diagram what is the cos of theta. So this will be 1/2 inside the bracket. What is the cos of theta according to our diagram? Remember cos, it's adjacent all over hypotenuse. I'm not sure if, okay, it's adjacent, which will be k over hypotenuse, which is 1, close the bracket, minus the √3/2. What is sine? Opposite all over. This is opposite, this is adjacent, this is our hypotenuse. So this will be opposite. What is your opposite? It's negative the root of 1 minus k. Then everything divided by hypotenuse, which is 1. Still remember how this works, right? We multiply out the bracket by half this side. So we're going to say 1 is multiplied with k, 2 is multiplied with 1, this times that, this times that. That's what you need to do. It's easy. So the top part will give us k/2. We're going to minus this. So I'm just going to save time. I'm just going to take the negative now. Let us multiply out these two negatives here. I'm going to indicate, let us take this negative and multiply it with that negative to get positive. So what I'm trying to say, this will be positive. That will be positive. So I'm going to substitute that as positive. Then I am going to say this will be the √3, the root of 1 minus k, and everything is divided by 1. So now, I'm sorry. If we multiply the denominators, it's 2 times 1. This will be over 2. What happens next is that the denominators are the same. We can write this as one denominator. So the top part will just be k plus that √3 times the root of 1 minus k squared. Then when it's like this, you successfully answered all the questions. So remember, the first thing that you need to do, make sure that you draw your diagram. And when you draw the diagram, also check on what you are given on the question. Then you use the theorem of Pythagoras to find the missing side. So when you have this information, it's easy for you to refer on the diagram. There's no way you can refer on the diagram when you are missing some of the most important information. And thank you very much for watching the lesson. The second lesson, please make sure that you like and subscribe so that you don't miss the third lesson on drawing a diagram.